going to start it off. Going to have The Rock introduce themselves and do a little presentation about what you guys do. So pass the mic.
Is that okay?
You're already rock and rolling.
Keep
You
me
got-
up
you
on
gonna
this.
speak?
Oh, you were passing me the
Okay.
mic.
Sure.
Let's
Give it
give
to
it
Bobby.
There you
There
go.
you
Give it to Bobby.
Thanks.
Give it to Bobby. Yeah.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. For
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. Last time y'all were here, we were at our old location. So we've grown a lot, and so we appreciate you guys coming. We are the Recovery Organization of Cherokee County. We are an RCO. We started as Hope Dillers Worldwide, and one of the main initiatives of Hope Dillers Worldwide that's been around since 2016 is to have this community development of the RCO. So it's heavily supported by Hope Dillers, but we slowly are having more partners in our community take ownership in what we have going on. And last year at Cherokee Wraps, how many people here were at Cherokee Wraps last year? A few of us. Okay, it's going to be double the size this year because the Clinton Foundation, has partnered up with us with Mobilize, the bus tour, Mobilize Recovery across Georgia, the big bus that they paid for. We're going to have a huge recovery party on September 22nd, Friday evening. So that's going to be pretty awesome, and that's where all the sober living treatment programs, everybody in the recovery community, we get everyone to come and have one big celebration and party all night. So that's where a lot of us met each other a year ago. So the Recovery Organization of Cherokee County, we actually serve all over the state here with some different reasons, but I'll share those in just a moment. But right here, this is our new place, obviously. That was our ribbon cutting we just had. Right there is Neil Campbell, who is the president of the Georgia Council for Recovery. Whose phone is that?
That's mine.
Oh, is it yours? Oh, it's okay.
I'm like, somebody go turn my
That's
phone
okay.
on. Let me just go do that.
It's good. It's like the ADD thing. I was like, oh. Anyways. So yeah, Neil Campbell is the executive director of Georgia Council for Recovery. It used to be substance abuse. They changed it to recovery. And this is our new incoming executive director, and all the Marissa, right? Is it right? Marissa, thank you. And all of the RCOs are under, what their initiative, which is great. And so I'm Nadine, founder and president. Then we've got Bobby Kinney, our peer outreach coordinator, if you want to say hi to everyone. Hey. And then we have Amber Robinson.
Hey.
And she is our peer operations. She runs the whole place here. And then we have Mary Rogers, who is not here today. She's our peer case manager, and she's the one who will call the GAR residences all the time saying, we have someone that needs to be placed. We have someone that needs to be placed. So we get a lot more people that for placement than a regular RCO would. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. Here's one of our residents. And here's what's really cool about our RCO, any RCO, is we're peer-led, right? Our board has to be more than 50% of those who are in recovery. So typical things about an RCO is peer-led. Also, we offer every pathway, all pathways, from 12-step meetings to Dharma recovery to all recovery meetings. And we have peer support coaches who are here. So they're all trained through Georgia Council for Recovery, but for lack of a better word, it's just free counseling, but not counseling, coaching. So everything is free here, which is great. One thing that we really like to share is we're really into advocating for killing the stigma, right? The stigma with recovery. And as treatment professionals and as sober living owners and as everybody in this recovery industry, we've all got to come together to reduce the stigma. Why don't people ask for help? Why don't they go to your sober living, right? Stigma around behavior, mental health, substance use disorder, the addiction. There's a huge stigma. So what can we do? We can change our words, we change our messaging, and we have places like these called RCOs. We are person-centered. It's not only more culturally competent, but it's compassion, empathetic, loving, and when someone else feels loved, they feel accepted as opposed to judged, and they're more likely to ask for help. So what are some ways that we change our messaging as a community here? We have these folders and handouts that we will give you. Bobby, you can, whoever wants a folder, and then there's extra handouts. But we have changed our language. You can look at this later, but you will hear us say, we don't use words like clean and sober. We don't refer to people like dirty laundry or dishes. We say, how long have you maintained your recovery, right? It's more compassionate, less stigmatizing. We don't really even say addict that much. We say a person in long-term recovery. So we have a whole bunch of language things here that are brought down from Georgia Council for Recovery, Faces and Voices of Recovery. And that's kind of a rabbit hole that I know we don't have time for, but that's what a recovery community center is really committed to. But here specifically, what we offer is daily support group meetings. Every single one that you could think of is offered, from SMART to all the 12 steps. We just started a new HA meeting called Spiritual Smack, which is super cool. We have recovery yoga, art expressions, Reiki in a relaxation room upstairs. If you haven't checked it out, certified peer support coaching. We are a resource and referral hub, including treatment placement. We have very creative funding. So if you have an intake fee at your place and someone doesn't have that, we will find a way to make sure that we can help them get what they need to go to where they need to go. We have several sources to do that. And come September, I think we're having a lot more sources, especially if they've come from incarceration. We also offer free Wi-Fi printing. We have the coffee and Italian soda bar back there. And one thing that's pretty cool that we have, Amber's over this, if you could come here for a second.
Oh.
Anyone, we are happy to give them a free tablet or phone with unlimited Wi-Fi and a free phone bill and all that. Do you want to tell them?
That's from the Affordable Connectivity Program. So it's actually a federal program through our federal government. And I am a licensed agent, so I am able to do that through phone companies. So people going into treatment, coming out of treatment, they have enough to worry about with all their bills. So this gives them an opportunity to be able to get free phone service for at least 12 months without having to renew their service. So I have a list. We've helped over hundreds and hundreds of people get phones where they don't have to worry about that bill, and it takes some of the stress off them. So yeah.
So then they have more money to pay their sober
They have
living
more
bill.
money to pay. Yes.
Okay. In addition to that, we like to, I have this. In addition to that, we like to think we help people take away all the medical bill worry, because we do assist them. Well, The Rock refers to Hope Dealers Worldwide, where I'm not only a certified addictions counselor, I'm also a licensed insurance broker. 100% of all profits go straight to keep this place open. So we get people on low and no cost insurance so that they don't have to worry about their medical bills and they can pay their sober living instead, right? Community workshops, classes, social events, and we do a lot of service projects in the community, because in order to keep our recovery sustainable, we like to keep giving and doing service projects, and that's just one of the awesome things we do. We actually started on that whole premise in 2016, taking a group of people with opiate use disorder to Guatemala to build a bottle school, just a school in an underprivileged village in Guatemala. When they went there, they didn't know what they were going to encounter. By the time they were done, their self-worth and purpose was increased. They did not have the stigma of being called junkies or addicts or anything like that. They actually felt like they had purpose, and all of them are still maintaining their recovery to this day, which is awesome. And now this Friday, actually, and this is what we'll end with, is our Cheers program, which is launching this Friday. And we listen to the needs of the people in our community. They have nowhere fun to go on the weekend that is drug and alcohol free. We also have heard our peers tell us that the weekend is the time where they're most likely to have a setback. Yes, I said setback. We don't use the word relapse. So setbacks happen over the weekend. And so we said we're going to stay open 24 hours all through the weekend from Friday until Sunday night. And this is called our Cheers program. Anyone here old enough to remember that old TV show Cheers? Yeah. So we're going to have Texas Hold'em, poker, all different kinds of fun stuff, but you can see the promo really quick. Cornhole, team trivia.
I come to the Rock because it's basically like a family model. So there used to be this old TV show called Cheers where it's like, it's good to go and everybody knows your name, or something like that. So to me, this is a place where I go and there's always love here. There's always safety and compassion and good people here. And my friends and family are here, and it's like my home.
Y'all remember that?
We can do it in the world today. Takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot.
So dancing, open mic.
Like to get away. Sometimes you
Y'all remember Norm? Of course, you have to have a bar. We have our bar. Movies, art, full art room back there. Social hangout. We've had a lot of fun here. And one person in recovery said, I never knew you could have this much fun without drugs and alcohol. Took us 6 months to really get this planned so that we had appropriate coverage.
We got snacks, we got coffee.
He looks like a puppy wagging his tail, doesn't he? Yeah. So that concludes what we're offering here. This is every single weekend. We want everyone in recovery to have a good time, a fun time, and know that there's a safe place where everyone knows their name, where there's no judgment, lots of love. And I'm so glad that you guys will get to share that with your clients because when they are done with your sober living program, or maybe while they're doing it if they have weekend privileges, and they come here, it actually makes the success rate of your program increase because we're keeping them in recovery. We're helping them maintain recovery. So Bobby, did you want to say something to close us out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you guys saw the highlights that we're going to be offering during the weekend here at the Cheers program, but we're also going to be doing a lot of fun upcoming events like pay-per-view fights, UFC fights. We're going to be doing like a 4th of July party. So we're just going to really make it the place to be. I know for me, when I was starting out in recovery, it was really hard. I mean, going to Topgolf, that's not a cheap thing to do, you know, especially if you're starting out. Money's a little tight. You have a family, I got kids. So, you know, I especially know how tight money can be. But yeah, it's just going to be a lot of fun. And we need your guys' help, just spreading the word. Tell your guys' programs, tell your guys' clients, tell family, friends, allies, whatever. We'd love to have you guys come out. So it's going to be a great time. We just want everybody to be a part of it. So
Awesome. And each week it's sponsored by a program or somewhere like this week it's sponsored by His Hands Church. But yeah, but anyways, if you're interested in
yeah,
sponsorship.
check your emails because we just sent a huge email
Yep.
out telling you guys all, I guess, a lot more about it.
And then here's
The
Cody.
sponsorship program.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you guys. We appreciate being here. And, you know, we come in and take over people's places for about 4 hours. And we really appreciate all the support that the community of recovery has given Gar. You know, she spoke about breaking the stigma. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is about that. But before we go into grab some food real quick, I like to do this because I think it's powerful. Just give me your name, organization you're with, and the populations that you serve.
You guys want to
Oliver
go
Turner,
in?
Sober Living America,
Good to see you. man.
all over Georgia,
See ya.
about 600 beds.
Okay.
Beth May, we're Ruth House Ministries out of Ranger, Georgia.
Go on in, you guys. There's room.
We service
Yeah.
the state wherever somebody comes from.
Calibra Lloyd Breakthrough House, and we service women and their children all over Georgia.
Awesome.
Jacqueline Fly with Breakthrough House, and we service women in recovery all over Georgia.
Andrea Connolly, A Better Way Recovery. We service women. We have 25 beds, and I'm also on the GAR board.
Margaret Martin, Breakthrough House, and we service women.
Jonathan Revels, the Christian Family Center. We service men. We have 80 beds, and we service all over Georgia.
Everybody, Steve Herndon, President, co-founder of Safety Net Recovery, and we serve men here in Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte, North Carolina.
Glenn Doyle with the Christian Family Center. Me and Jonathan work there. Like you said, about 80 beds and all over Georgia.
Hey, I'm Elaine Johnson from Turning Point in Gainesville, Georgia. We are a 70-bed men's facility, and we have people coming from all over the state.
Good afternoon. I'm Phoebe Sims, and we're from Breakthrough House, and we service women. We're located in South DeKalb County, and we take care of women throughout the state and their children.
Angela McDonald, Breakthrough House, serving women's all over Georgia.
Angela thought she wasn't going to be able to speak. See that? See, Angela's a little shy. She didn't want that one.
Trish Mullinax, Nick's New Beginnings, and we service Jackson, Butts County area. Well, all over Georgia, right?
Yeah.
And 10 beds.
We're located in Butts County.
Yeah.
What county? Butts County. It's south, Jackson. South of McDonough. Yeah.
I'm Tim Clark with Just Stay Sober House, and we have 45 beds, and we serve the Athens area. I also work for people living in recovery, which is the local RCO for Athens. So
I'm Terry Rachels, and I'm also here representing Nick's New Beginnings, and we already said that. They also have a home. Their first home is in Las Vegas, and it's been in operation for quite some while. They have moved and opened up new sober living houses in Butts County.
Abdul Shabazz. Well, I'm with Proactive Recovery, and we're just opening up ourselves.
I'm Teresa. It's Proactive Collaborative Living, and we're just opening.
Hey there, I'm Berkeley Hayes, Regional Director for We Are Living Proof. We serve Gwinnett, Hall, and Charlotte, North Carolina with about 380 beds.
My name is Brandy Rogers. I'm the director at our Lawrenceville 3 campus of We Are Living Proof, and we have about 70 beds.
Daniel Irons, Assistant Director at the Hickey House. We have about 40 beds, mostly Georgia, but some across the southeast.
Jeff Dixon, Hazelbrook Sober Living Housing Director. We service over 400 men and women's beds in Colorado and now expanding to Georgia.
Men's. Roy with Just Stay Sober House. We service Athens, Clark County, outreach coordinator for Just Stay Sober House. I'm Roy. Hey, everybody.
My name is Calvin Ray. I'm in the process of opening Absolute Recovery Residence, and we will service men.
Hi, I'm Candace Whitaker, and I am your president-elect on the GAR board.
Hey, I'm Rudra. I'm with Valor Recovery House. We're a 30-bed men's facility in Marietta, Georgia, and I'm also on the GAR board.
David East, secretary on the GAR board and owner-operator of the Artist Recovery Services in Sandy Springs. We service both men and women.
Awesome. Couple more.
Levi Jones with Sober Living America. We help men and women who struggle with substance abuse disorder. We have roughly 600 beds throughout the state of Georgia.
Tyler Howie, owner at Amended Recovery House. We have 30 beds, 10 beds in Powder Springs, and 20 beds in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we are a men's recovery home.
Awesome. All right. Who's hungry?
I'm hungry.
Oh, well, man, nobody's hungry. Did you hear that? Who's hungry? All right. So we are going to have an interactive session. I would urge you that when you come back after you get your food, to sit somewhere aside somebody that you don't know. That'd be good. All right. Searches based on the name of your organization, right? And so when you guys come in here with multiple folks from your organization, you have to fill out the form that you filled out with the same exact way that your organization is named. You understand?
Right.
Because if you don't, then, somebody says the Breakthrough House and the other one says Breakthrough House, you're not going to get found. So I just want to mention that and kind of start to condition our membership and folks here that they have to fill those things out correctly so that she can find them and get the CEUs to you.
And I have started, if you don't put a program, as long as you put an email, I'm still going to get it to you some way, but it's just a little bit more work for me. Right. So.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of announcements before we get started. We have a couple of events that are coming up that are major events in the history of GAR and the flow of the year. And one of those events is our next member meeting, which will be in June, is our Safety Summit meeting. So it's much different than just a regular member meeting, okay? In that meeting, you can get, or in that training, really, because it's training, you can get 6 CEUs. There is a charge for that particular training because it is what we call our Safety Summit. And I can tell you, because I feel like I should, these things just don't happen by themselves. You can see we have a technical side of things going on over there. We have lots of meetings that we have through the course of a month and through the years to put all this stuff together, right? And so actually just today in the board meeting, we came together with the finalized version of what we're going to provide at the Safety Summit, which is great. We had a little bit of trouble finding some of the components, but the piece that discusses exactly what's going to be offered at the June Safety Summit, you can find it on the web right now on our website, but it will be revised a little bit because we just added some things. So just make sure that you come back maybe at the end of the week or something like that and take a look at it. But that training will be held at the Covenant Church, which is where we have our summit meetings at the end of the year. It's down off of North Avenue. Okay. So you have to reserve a ticket. The piece that's up on the website will have either a link that you can go to get to the Eventbrite, or you can hit the QR code. But you're gonna got to go through, pay for the event, which is $50. Okay, but that's coming up in June, so it's a big event. On May 19th, if you're in the metro area, last year we started a couple of network meetings, kind of outside of our membership, all inclusive, all kinds of different programs, treatment centers, detoxes, IOPs, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, anybody can come, right? And they were fantastic. Both of them last year did really well as far as bringing a whole bunch of people together and having some network and some time together and really, through the course of this process for me personally and for also to just help you guys, I feel like, it's really important that we step out of the shadows of recovery residences and into the light of we really do save lives. They live with us 25/8. So they get done with IOP, PHP, where do they go? They get done with treatment center, where do they go? They come in off the streets, where do they go? They come with us and they stay with us for 6 months and 9 months and a year and 2 years, right? And so to have these meetings in these networking events where we're kind of highlighted as what we do and how we do it, I think is very important. So on May 19th, that is also on the website, okay? May 19th down in Sandy Springs at Samad's Grill. If you've never been there, it's fantastic. I love Jamal, love the food. So great food, opportunity for you to network outside of our, membership, right? So that's again on the website, and make sure you take a look at that. All right. Any questions about that? Yes, sir.
All the stuff you talk about is on the website.
Everything I talk about is on the website. Yes.
Which is
thegarnetwork.org. The THE GAR GARR network.org. So yeah, I do that too. So I run the website. So everything that is happening pretty much immediately is in kind of flyer form on the front page, but also the calendar of events for the rest of the year is there as well. If you click on that, you can go through all the rest of the year and see what we have scheduled. Okay, cool, good, awesome. All right, 5 ways ethical behavior can change the world. Guys are here because we do change the world, right? Think about those clients that come through your program and go on and live life, right, in recovery and start to blend back into the family, have families, get jobs, move forward, productive members of society. That is changing the world, right? So y'all are life changers, man, world changers right here in this room. So to start off, again, I said it's going to be interactive. So, cluster up in 4s and 5s, because you're going to kind of collaborate and talk through some of this stuff.
Make this easy for you guys. You guys right here.
There we go.
You're gonna
Boom.
be a group. See if I can get you to kind of just work with these corner people over here. I'm going to have you guys cluster. I'm going to have y'all cluster. David, the 3, 4 of you guys cluster. And my couch people, my kind of people, cluster.
Yeah.
Cluster.
There we go. Boom. All right, to start off, one of the, a while back, I was watching, I don't know, like Kramer's Mad Money and Howard Schultz. Everybody knows how Howard Schultz is? The CEO of Starbucks. He was on there, and he was asked, like, what do you think the business of Starbucks is? What would you say? What business is Starbucks in? He would say that they are in the people business, connecting people, right? So I ask you, what business are you in? Recovery residents, people business. Saving lives. Okay, networking. All right. The hope business. I like that. So we just had a little glitch in our little session here, but that's okay because I can wait. So we're going to start off with some terminology. Okay. We're going to save what we just talked about for a little bit later in the presentation. Hopefully it'll come up on the screen, and if it doesn't, that's okay because we can talk through it, right? But the terminology that we're going to work on is ethics, morals, and values. So those 3 words. What I want you guys to do in the groups that Cody just put you guys in is I want you to discuss and talk about what you come up with as the definitions of those words. What do you think ethics really is? What do you think morals really is? What do you think values really is? Okay?
There you go.
Boom. Morals, ethics, and values. What do you think these terms mean?
And what is the difference between them?
You guys have to talk. You got 3 minutes to come up with your definitions. 3 minutes to come up with your definitions. Get your presenter ready, and we're going to start off with just a quick little run through of what you guys came up with.
What am I doing?
Just tell what your sentence is. What did you come up with?
I didn't come up with a sentence, but I can say it.
Okay, good.
Ethics are the guidelines or the rules, how to act legally. Values feed into our morals, which are usually personal belief systems.
Awesome. All right.
Second that motion.
All right. Anybody else got anything different? Or are we just gonna all boom?
We decided, we thought that ethics were like a set of standards that are agreed upon by a community, or either like imposed upon by that community or observed.
Beautiful. Love that, because that's our definition as well, my friend. So, yeah, it's the studies of standards and behaviors of right and wrong behavior, right? The reality is, like, I can set some personal ethics, right, and have my personal standards, but at the end of the day, what we're talking about is ethics within our company residents, right? And us, as your certifying body, are typically the ones that are going to set those standards for you guys. But at the end of the day, we still have the choice, which is the human choice of I'm going to follow that or I'm not going to follow that, right? Which brings us into our morals, which that's really the right and wrong, right? And that's more of our personal belief. Okay. And then into values, that which has intrinsic worth, a principal standard of quality that is worthwhile. So what's the difference between morals and values to you guys?
What was the question?
What is the difference between morals and values?
I think morals are probably more of a like universal standard of good and bad, whereas values are like specific to a person. So I might be an orphan and not have a strong sense of family. She may have like a big family, so she may, the value of like family and connectedness in the family may mean something totally different to her than it does to me. So I think values are like more specific, whereas morals tend to deal with like right or wrong.
Sure.
Yeah, values I think are kind of, in large part, morally neutral, right? I value money, but there's nothing morally right or wrong about money, right? I value a lot of things that aren't necessarily right or wrong. So it's more like what's important to us without that consideration of right and wrong. Moral, morality's more specifically has to do with right and wrong.
Sure, absolutely. So why do we think this is an important topic to talk about amongst our certifying body specifically? Come on.
We deal with people.
Sure.
We deal with people, like real life breathing people.
Sure, absolutely. What else? What are we? We're people. More often than not, people in recovery. I don't know about y'all, but these words morals, values, ethics weren't exactly a part of my past.
We didn't have
them, right?
And if we're going to be a fellowship, we need to know values, morals, and ethics.
Absolutely. Listen, I'll give a quick example for me and my career, right? When I got started in the field, okay, I was given this great job working for this treatment center that at the time had a great reputation and it's all run by guys in recovery at the time. And they were like, man, I just need you to do this every day. I need you to do that every day. And I'm like, cool. These guys who have decades of sobrieties, very successful, nice cars in the driveway, all that stuff, they're not leading me to doing anything I shouldn't be doing, right? Then I went to an ethics class to get my CAC and then learned that there was stuff I was doing every day that was unethical and sometimes even borderline illegal. And the truth is that had nothing to do with me as a person, right? I was a guy in recovery. I was like, hey man, I'm turning around. I'm trying to put these things called morals and values and ethics first. But I got to know what that actually looks like. Exactly. Just because I'm a person in recovery and I've changed my life, does that really mean that we have an embedded history in practicing ethical and moral values, all that good stuff? Not always. I'm not saying it's a one size fits all. I'm just speaking from where I sit and a lot of the people that I get to work with sit. So it's important for us to be able to have these conversations. I mean, yes, we have to adhere to the NAR and GAR standards and expectations, but at the end of the day, it's not always black and white, is it? Right? We find ourselves in these gray area situations, whether we wanted to put ourselves there or not. And the most important thing that we can do as providers is know how to navigate out of it. Okay? It's not a matter of if you land into an unethical situation, it is a matter of when you find yourself in an unethical situation. Just because you find yourself in an unethical situation doesn't make you an unethical person. It makes you a treatment provider. What makes you an unethical person is when you don't take the proper steps necessary to navigate out of said unethical situation. Yes, sir.
But what I'm thinking is, and it may not be right, but I think crazy stuff.
Me too. Me too. Come on.
So what? And what are you saying? My values and my ethics and stuff, it's not to be compromised.
Ideally.
This is my freaking guideline, and this is what we're gonna go by.
Ideally. Again, you know,
I mean, I'm asking because I want to know.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, man. Again, and that's where each one of us, that's where that whole human piece comes in. Because whether you're a person in recovery or not, again, there are guidelines, and then you have the option to choose whether you follow them or not, and whether you agree with them or not. You know, at the end of the day, we're not an organization that's coming in and telling you, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's more along the lines of like, hey, there's a way that we suggest to do it. You know, there's definitely some things that we'd love to be able to coach, move around. There's definitely some black and white stuff that you can and can't do. But at the end of the day, even with the stuff that's we're saying you can't do that, you still have the decision of like, okay, by gar, and keep doing it. We're not here to tell you really what has to be right or wrong for you. We're telling you what has to be right or wrong for GAR.
Yeah.
Makes sense? But it's still important for you to identify where you at in that spectrum. Okay? Well, so at its core, ethics is about relationships, right? How do we treat the people that we work with? How do we treat ourselves? How do we treat our staff? All of that stuff. And so let me just ask a general question for you guys to kind of then chew on with your group. Hang on just a second.
Well, while he's doing that, I want to ask, what kind of business are you guys in? I think we're in the relationship business, right? And one other little point in the ethics, it was the study of, you know, in your CADC and when you got to get your continuing ed to recertify for your certifications, you know, ethics is the biggest chunk of the piece that you need. There's a reason for that.
So Angela McDonald from Breakthrough House asked the question, what is ethical or why is ethical behavior important in our field? Talk about it with your clusters. So would any of our clusters like to share, or anyone on Zoom like to share about why ethical behavior is important in our field? Yes, ma'am.
For safety and for boundaries, right? So that
Sure.
I could be safe and my client could be safe, and we're not crossing any lines or walking in any gray area, just white and black, and that's it.
Sure. You bring up this wonderful word, safety. Could you elaborate a little bit more? Because I know safety means something to me, but I noticed that it could mean something different to someone else. So could you describe to us what you mean by safety?
By keeping me safe, right, and keeping my clients safe. So, you know, values and morals will intertwine in culture. So if I stick to what's ethically right, then you'll be safe, I'll be safe, and we'll be just going by the rules.
Sure. Okay. What else? Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Right? Do not treat anybody unfairly. Everybody is treated the same. Right?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Man, I really think she was listening to our conversation. the same lines. I mean, it's like you'll get this if you're not keeping your standards, the ethics part of this. What are y'all? What are we teaching here? Man, well, you did this for so and so, and you did it. Man, I don't want to hear nothing. We did it for you know what I mean. So if we just keep going that way.
Yeah, absolutely. What? Yes.
Just doesn't really have to do with what we discussed because we all discussed it the same way, obviously. But I do have one thing. I know when I was doing some of my trainings, I was taught by my clinical supervisor that whichever ethics are more strict, you follow those. So like GAR's ethics may not be as strict as say Abracadabra or GACA or your LPC or whatever. Whichever one trumps the other, that's the one you follow.
Absolutely.
Does anybody know what the GAR Code of Ethics is, where it's derived from?
NAR.
That's right.
NAR.
NAR.
And I just read it.
That's right. You're all supposed to have the NAR Code of Ethics right here, and it's on our website. Everything's on the website in every one of your employees' files. This actually becomes a great session to have with your team to go through what was on this page.
Which brings us into our next piece. The decision making about ethical dilemmas is difficult and complex because it has an impact on and is affected by relationships we have with others. That was a really weird thing. Let me propose this question, or I'm going to propose a scenario. If I'm talking about ethics with how do I make a referral to someone, right? Can somebody walk me through, hey, if I'm trying to get somebody to the Arches, right? I got a guy who's in my program. It's not working out with him, okay, for A, B, or C reasons. And I work with David. He owns the Arches. I called David to try to get this guy over to the Arches. What does that process really need to look like?
Honesty.
Okay. What? Hold on. Honesty with what, though?
Honesty with the situation. Why? If I want to be ethical in sending him a client that I am having some type of an issue with, I want to be honest with him on what the situation is, so he knows what to expect, what he's getting into. I want to call him and be like, yeah, this dude's been great, and blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Hold on. I see a lot of hands. I have some feedback for that, but I saw some other hands shoot up. So let's hear some stuff here.
When we have to be very careful about what we say about the individual, because we can't tell them who we're talking about. The individual needs to be a part of the conversation to say, here, this is what we've been dealing with, because I can't say this guy's doing this or whatever. There's a HIPAA violation.
Right.
So are we as recovery residence owners, if we do not have a clinical building and if we don't bill for insurance, are we confined to use HIPAA?
Yeah.
CFR.
Those are two separate things. Sure, yeah, absolutely. But HIPAA, and listen, it's a very common mistake, right? And that's okay. But yes, to your point, I have to have permission from my client to call anyone about their case. Okay? We prefer written permission, right? Now, in that particular instance, is it probably okay if they're sitting right next to me and say, hey, we're going to call this individual on speakerphone together and you're going to be included in the conversation? That's perfectly acceptable. But I still have to have the client's permission to call someone else. Okay? David.
The big thing, the conversation needs to look like determining whether it's a good fit for the person's needs.
Sure.
Right? I wouldn't want you sending me somebody because we're buddies, right? I want it to be because you know that my program is probably the best place for that person.
Absolutely. And to that point, also with the confidentiality piece, because this is something that I see pretty regularly, to be quite honest. Oh man, I got a great relationship with the Arches, man. Like they do a great job and we've been working together for so long. It's okay if I just send that face sheet over to David. It's like, we've got a good relationship. I don't need this ROI because I work with him hand in hand. I know that he's not going to do anything stupid. No, it doesn't matter if it's your sister facility. It doesn't matter if it's your local resource. It doesn't even matter how good of a fit for the person it is. You have to get the right written documentation in order to communicate about a client's case. It's as simple as that, guys. And yes, unless you're billing for insurance, no, you're not. You don't have to adhere to HIPAA, but you do have to adhere to CFR 42.
Okay? Even if you're not a counselor, because that is what we ask as a governing body, is that you do respect confidentiality. And listen, the whole, oh, I'm just going to say Brandon B, like, no, that's still not what we're supposed to be doing. So we have to be able to go through the due process. Is it a pain in the ass? Absolutely. But it's the pain in the ass that protects your ass. And that's what's important. I saw another hand back here, but I think it was, yes.
Well, I really agree with what he said. We constantly have to send clients to another sober living or another resource because basically they wouldn't be a good fit for us, but maybe they're a better fit over there. And you see it all the time where people succeed in other places, maybe not our place. But I wouldn't send you somebody that I wouldn't pass through my intake myself. That's something that I stress relationships with community partners and other sober livings. You know, I'm not going to send you somebody that wouldn't go through my intake in passing, but in my house. So,
Can I ask why though? Because what if the other facility is more equipped to deal with that individual set of issues than you are? Is that a disqualifying piece to make that referral?
No.
Okay, just curious. Okay, good deal. Just want to make sure. So, Tony Moon, in regards to what we're talking about, Tony Moon of Rising Sun asked, when confronted with an ethical dilemma, such as an employee lies or misinterprets something about a client, how do you handle it? Talk to your clusters. Yes, I can. Tony Moon of Rising Sun Recovery asks, when confronted with an ethical dilemma, such as an employee lies or misinterprets something about a client, how do you handle it?
And so what this is really all about, this thing up here and that question, is the relationships that we have with each other, with other facilities, with parents, right? How I handle ethical decisions and dilemmas along the way are going to affect that relationship. Maybe I have to take the high road and make some decisions that maybe aren't all agreeable down here, but if I don't do this, then who else is going to be affected? Where is that part where you're treating them like that, but you're not treating me like this? That's what that's all about. Okay?
Talk to your clusters. Coming on back.
Limited ability to interact. They do have like social life and stuff.
So, is there any cluster that would like to share with us anything interesting that came up for you guys, or anything that you guys kind of agreed on or disagreed on? Yes, sir.
We debated, we discussed whether it's a lying or misinterpretation information.
No, we're just saying
That's a
that
big
misinterpretation and lying are two totally different questions. Okay, misinterpretation, I mean, if my employee misinterprets something that's going down with a resident, you know, he perceives disrespect or something on the part of the client or the resident. I mean, and then I uncover that it wasn't in fact disrespectful. I mean, maybe I'm, you know, taking the employee, never doing it in front of the client or the resident, but taking the employee to the side and explaining, you know, the difference or what the miscommunication was or whatever. If it's lying, that's a whole different sequence of disciplinary action that's required. Right? So now I've got to figure out, does this employee have a history of lying? Right? I mean, there's a lot of variables and factors that I'm taking into account when I decide what course of action to take with this employee.
Sure.
Right.
Couldn't agree more. Question for you though. Do you view being delusional and being dishonest as the same thing?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Okay, cool.
I don't think so, because I think that delusion could be caused by something else. Whereas dishonesty may be still so deeply ingrained in a person, they might be working through it. That's one of the variables or factors that I'm trying to take into account when determining what course of action to take.
Sure. Cool. Love it. What else? Yes, ma'am.
So we didn't talk about this part, but I was thinking about when we talk about ethics, it's really important that we don't put our own morals and values on the shoulders of others and judge them according to what we would do or not do, say or not say. And so that's like a very fine line. So if we are not self-aware, if we don't understand how we function, it'll be easy for us to project onto somebody else and hold them responsible for our values. And so they're gonna always be in trouble because they're not living the way we would live or making decisions the way we would do it.
Sure, absolutely. Because that kind of proposes the question of are we here to like all of our clients?
No.
Do we? No. But do I still have to treat them with the same fairness as I do the clients that I'm like, man, that would be great to actually get a cup of coffee with you if you weren't a client of mine? The reality is that's what we have to do. We have to be completely non-biased. We have to be able to put ourselves in the position of like, hey man, win, lose, or draw. If you're doing the things that I'm asking you to do and you're progressing with your life, I may not agree with you or see eye to eye about 99% of your life. But if you're doing that, and that's my role in your life, is to manage, offer, support, all of that good stuff that we offer in our recovery residences, it's remembering what is my role, right? And looking at, okay, well, if they agreed to these standards and expectations that I wrote, and they're doing that, that's what we're here to do, right? Whether I really like what shoe you put on first or not is kind of irrelevant, right?
What we're talking about here is there's a line between professional ethics and personal ethics.
Yes.
And you have to think about that, right?
And I mean, it goes, then it's me, not that I know anything. Man, it goes back, man, I was a big liar for this. You know what I mean? I was a big freaking liar. And man, it's gonna be certain things that they're gonna have to roll through. If I ain't careful, but it's right.
What did you say?
If I ain't careful. But that ain't my intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I got a personal situation. We got a client. He's behind the hole. He lost his job. He's about to get a divorce. But, my role in his life is to help him stay sober. And he's doing that. He goes to meetings. All the things we require him to do as a program. But he tends to tell people what's on his mind, and it gets him in trouble all the time. And, he'll call me, and he'll be like, man, I did this. I'm like, my first thing, did you drink? Did you get high? He's like, no. I'm like, well, we can work out all the other stuff. But, he's just a jerk. Like I say, he tells people what's on his mind, and it gets him in trouble all the time. But like you said, my role is to help him stay sober. And he's doing everything we ask him to do. He goes to meetings, he does 5 meetings a week. He comes, he does his probation stuff. He does everything that we ask him to do, but he cannot keep a job, and nobody likes it. But like I said, my job is to keep him sober. That's why he's there, to stay sober and to meet his requirements for probation. He does all that other stuff, but he's an asshole, man. He's just a straight up asshole.
But see, that's exactly what we're talking about. Your role is to help him stay sober, but what we're really in the business in is relationships. So helping him learn how to have relationships, and how do you do that is, I have to do so I can give away. Right? So the more you can be that person that shows him how to handle himself, how to say, hey, you know what? It might take 100 times. Maybe he's never going to get it. I get that.
Yeah.
But that's where we have to act ethically with morals. And here's, be that example.
One thing we do want to touch on, it just seems to be something that we can never say enough of. We really strongly recommend that if you are going to hire a former resident of yours, as a house manager, recovery coach, all that good stuff, and listen, I'll be the person to raise my hand and be like, hey man, I was a house manager at 6 months and worked my way up in the program that I got sober in. It's a total shit show, but it's how it went. We do really suggest waiting 6 months after that client has completed services with you. Go live your life. Go be a person in recovery. Okay? And then if after 6 months after completion of the program, you want to come back and still work here, we can talk about that. Why do you think that's a suggestion that we make?
Give them time to go out and live their life. Give them time to see, put their tools to work.
Sure.
See,
boundaries.
How am I going to structure somebody that's late for curfew when it's my roommate? a week ago.
Absolutely.
There's also a significant issue at hand. You put a lot of pressure, when our role is to help them stay safe, clean, and sober, and now we've said, hey, now you're going to be in charge of the community. They might tell you that feels really good for them, but inside they're like, oh my God, now I got to tell John, who knows that I did this kind of stuff, that he can't do that kind of stuff. Like, that's twisting up in their heads.
Absolutely.
How about you got clients that have been there a year, 2 years, and just ain't got nowhere else to go?
That's something that you have to figure out for your own
I'm
program.
asking if when you're in that situation, and he checks off a box to be a house man, to be a staff.
So what we ask is that you work on some kind of separation. Like, it might just be, hey, why don't you, John, just go around the units and just have conversations with the guys at night. Don't say anything, don't do any drug screens, just be part of the supporting, making sure that everybody's like having a good day. Have that kind of conversation.
There's definitely a difference in peer support from the community and developing community leaders as opposed to a staff member. Okay, we love, at my program, we love being able to take our senior residents and empower them into some sort of responsibility role around their apartment and, rallying the guys and stuff like that. But they are not in our staff meetings. We have a separate meeting with those leaders of the community, but it is not a staff position. There is no like, hey man, I need you to go check on so-and-so, or I need you to give so-and-so a UA, because they are still a resident receiving services. Now, have I seen programs, including my own, where there are people who will go into a transition unit or a transition house, and they go there for 6 months or something like that. And it's like, technically, are they a part of the organization in some sort of way? Yes, but they're also kind of on their own little campus, living their lives. It's more of a, hey, I'm a landlord who reserves the right to drug test you sort of deal. It's not really a program, but it's what you have done after you completed the program. Because, I get that, man. There's plenty of those folks who it's like, hey, man, this is the best that I've ever done with my life. And if I leave here, that could actually cause problems, right? And so, even if I've been here for a year, man, I've been using for 35. So 1 year is not enough, so I get that. Any other comments around any of that? Questions?
Are you fixing to change pages?
Sure.
Well, I
But
wanted to say something about up there.
Come on.
I hear a lot of times people say, well, you gotta treat everybody the same. You cannot treat everybody the same. You can treat everybody fair. Because what it takes to motivate one client may not be the way to go to another. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's kind of like in sports. My old coach said one time, you can't treat everybody the same. You treat everybody fairly, because what it takes to do this for one may not work. If you treat everybody the same, and I'm not talking about rules and regulations, I'm talking about the way you approach people too. You treat everybody the same. If you've got a diabetic in your program, then everybody's got to get a shot.
Absolutely. No.
Well, that's that level, and you're right. But this is, John was out half an hour after curfew, and because I like John, I'm going to say that's okay. But I don't like Bill, and Bill was 5 minutes after curfew, and I'm going to come down on Bill. That's
I'm mainly talking about the way you.
I understand.
Like, if I talk to Joe, I may have to get on him a little bit where that would work with him, but with somebody else, he may need to take it.
Yeah. And that's why it's the favoritism is up there. Yeah. You're right. You got to, it's individualized.
Yeah, and listen, that's more of a skill base, if I'm being totally honest, right? When we talk about how to run and operate your program, those are the ethics that we kind of want to talk about. Now, from a best practices, what we in the counseling world call individualized care, yes, absolutely. Being able to look at each person as an individual and say, hey, your needs are absolutely going to be different from Johnny's and Bob's. And that's okay. And I'm going to try to adhere to the best that I can within the boundaries and the structure of this program. So wonderful, wonderful feedback. Love that was brought up today. So leads me into our next question, which, oh crap, I just lost it. Because Steve brought it up. What do boundaries mean to you guys, and why are they important? Talk to your clusters.
Let's bring it on in so we can get on out of here. Wrap this up.
All right. So, what do boundaries mean to you guys, and why are they important? Why are boundaries important? Come on.
Provide stability, safety, like she was talking about earlier, prevents burnout, and prevents ethical issues.
Can you talk about that burnout for a second?
So, the example we were talking about was we all work with residents, or whatever you guys' term is. We all work with them. Like I have if you call me on the weekend and it is not an emergency, if the house is on fire, please call me after you call 911. But if the house is not on fire, can it wait till Monday? Because I also have stuff outside of this. This is not all consuming, even though I'm a person in recovery and I can obsess and compulse with it. And I don't want to. I also have important stuff. But if I get burned out, I'm no good for you or me. So and we were talking about how important it is that we stay consistent with whatever that boundary is. So we teach them where the line is. Because if some days I'm okay with it and some days I'm not, like you were talking about, they're going to be so confused that we're all going to be a bunch of chaos.
That's right. It is.
Burnout is severe in this field. It is severe, and that's why we have rotating doors of staff often.
It is important to note and remember, because we talked a little bit about how maybe we don't like some clients. I promise you there are probably more clients that don't like us. That's okay. But let us not forget, even if they don't like us, we're still the example. They may not admit that to us, but guess what? We're the person that is running the place that is supposed to help them. So whether we agree together or we just have this great relationship, we're the example of recovery for that person. Because I can promise you, if they don't feel as if they are getting recovery where they are at, they're going to go somewhere else. We aren't living in the day and age where there's not a whole lot of sober livings. There's one every corner these days. So again, being able to not forget that, hey, we are the example, right? But we still have to show boundaries. Because do our clients need boundaries? Yeah. Absolutely. Where are they going to learn that from? They're just going to get it from osmosis? No. They're going to watch what we do. That's right. Absolutely.
And that's what the next one's all about. Ethical practices promote trust and accountability in relationships between individuals, organizations, and society at large. Individuals come into our programs because their life is unmanageable, whether they believe it or not, right? It's really our role to help them learn how unmanageable their life is, right? And I can't tell you how many people over the years, even though they kicked and screamed while they were in the program and we butted heads, years later, or maybe not even that long, somewhere, somehow, maybe even still in the program, they come to me and they go, you know what, man, I really needed to hear that. I needed you to hold me accountable. That's what they want, and that's what can help them learn who they are, learn boundaries within themselves, and also it's a big path to recovery. And so if we're not running programs that have a level of accountability and we're just letting everybody kind of do because we feel like we're just more love I give, the better everybody's going to be, it's not always the case. You got to have love, but you got to have some, some toughness too, man. You got to be the bear.
Here's the other important part about accountability for us as providers. I think I'm the shits more often than not. Man, we got a great program, man, that just kicks ass, and we got all sorts of people getting sober and getting out in the field and doing all sorts of stuff. But I have to remember, I still need accountability. I still need help. I do not have all of the answers. And that's even coming from somebody who's on the board. I can comfortably say, I am still learning this process. And so we have to be able to, for some of my 12-step recovery people, we have to embody humility. And that's what accountability looks like, is the ability to remain teachable and go, hey, you know what? I don't have all the answers. I think I have a pretty good idea of where to start. But you know what? I'm going to find myself in situations that I don't know what to do. And I need to be able to have the gall to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I don't know what to do and I need some help. Tal's gotten those phone calls from me. Previous leadership has gotten those calls from me, and that's what's gotten me to where I am today, is by continuing to go, hey, you know what? I actually don't know what to do. Can you help me? That's what accountability looks like, guys. It's not just, oh, when we hear something's going on or something went wrong and we're asking you. No, come to us and say, hey, I think I might have just messed up. Or I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to navigate through this. Can you help me? That's what your member fees are paying for. Okay, it's not just so that we can put on these events and do all this stuff. It's actually so that we can help you guys. Use us as the resource for accountability. Use us as the resource to be able to get out of ethical dilemmas. Most of us have very openly been in quite a few of them. And so we've got some knowledge on how to get out of them more often than not. Yes, sir.
I got a question. And if I send an email to GAR and the staff, what's the window on returning emails and
What's the what?
The
Timeline.
yeah, the timeline on returning phone calls and emails.
If you send it to me, I can usually respond within a 24-hour period of time, something like that, as quick as I can.
We're young sober living coming up, and we the questions that
Yeah.
we need, and we're just trying to get to where we can contact someone and get, be able to say, hey, this is what we got, this is what we, you know what I'm saying? And why we can continue to move forward.
Here's something important to remember. Out of the over 100 programs we now have certified, want to know how many paid staff members we have for GAR? One.
Wow.
And it's him. The rest of us are all here on a volunteer basis. So my response to your question is, hey man, everybody get to know the other members of the board, because Todd is one person. And yes, while I know Todd does his best to respond in a timely manner, this is just the people that showed up in this room. We got a full bunch of people on Zoom, and then we got a bunch of people that aren't on Zoom or aren't here who are all accredited through GAR. So the truth is, if Todd isn't getting back to you, get my number, get Mason's number, Candace's number, because sometimes, man, it's not even about, oh, Todd doesn't have the time or anything else. It's just everything gets funneled through him. He's a human.
Now, I'm not trying to shoot any shots here. I didn't mention his name. You see what I'm saying? I just want to know.
But I know what you meant. I'm a member of GAR too.
So look,
what you meant. It's okay.
Here's the fact. Now I'll put this plug in. I've tried to create a number of ways that we can get together and have conversations about stuff like that. Number one, I come in here every time. It's like, meet somebody that you don't know. Find somebody that you don't know. You shouldn't leave this place. I know you don't know everybody in here. The relationships that you build are going to help you solve some of those problems, right? One of the questions, have some questions. How long has your program been around? Oh, we've been around for 15, 20 years. Oh my God, that's somebody I need to talk to. Oh, we've just opened up about 6 months ago. Hey, you want them on your circle, but that's not somebody you're going to reach out to when things are going on fire, right? So it's about building relationships. But the Recovery Residents Workshop, third Tuesday of every month. I know you guys have been on there. It's become a pretty well attended 30, 35, 40 people every third Tuesday. And it's really, we just talk about stuff. And it's hard. It's really freaking hard. I can tell you this. It's hard standing up here. We had a great session today where you guys actually interacted. It's really hard on Zoom when you're on there and you're trying to drive people to have some conversations and everybody's just staring at you. It's ridiculous. When you're on a Zoom meeting, this is just for you. Hey, network. You should be having the chat box up, and you should put out there hey, here's who I am, here's my phone number, here's my email. Make connections while you're on a Zoom call. I want to finish this holding on to a resident past a certain point is harmful to them and your community. How many of us are guilty of that? I know I was. But, you know, I always thought in my mind, my number one concern was the community. My community needed to stay strong. And if there was that individual that was obviously, you know, I know everybody in here, you know, we all know, and that's the thing, you know, we all know, we're all in the trenches together, right? I know what you're going through, even if you haven't even started a program, I know what you're going to go through. Steve, I know what he's gone through. Steve and I, we barely even hang out. I know Steve better than I know most of my really close friends because I know what Steve's gone through in this business. And we know that we give people lots of chances. Somebody might run out and cry like, oh, they just discharged me. Yeah, they discharged you because it was the 8th time you did that. They didn't just all of a sudden, oh my God, you didn't make your bed today and out the door you went. That is not the case. But at some point in time, you realize like, I have to remove that thorn because it is a problem for the community. That's me being accountable to my program and my community and my ethics. Right? So, Cody, fantastic job. Appreciated. Yes, sir.
What if the resident is like a shining example of success of not only the program, but the recovery process in general? Like, how do you make that determination, whether it's harmful to them or the community?
Are you asking like you're gonna discharge somebody who's doing really well?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right. So you've got
There's probably a lot of other programs that would love to have him.
Well, I mean, is it like a time duration thing, or is it based on like a person's like progress or where they're at?
That's something that you have to determine, really. But that is a great question because at some point in time, people have to go out and live life, right? And when you're staying in the bubble, how long are you going to leave them to stay in the bubble? Are you really helping them? I've had many therapist friends over the course of time I've been in this, and they'll have a client for like 8 years. I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Like some point in time, the person has to go out and you know, the eagle does not let the chicklings stay in the nest for 14 years.
So I was
right? They push them out.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about like a graph. Like at some point when they come in the door, they can't do no worse, right? Yeah. So our community like can do nothing but bring them up. But at a certain point, they get to like an apex of that where they're on the
That's right.
line.
That's right.
Right on the backside of it.
Yeah.
So but I guess my question is it okay that our specific determination for each individual is just that based on the individual?
Yeah, and I would suggest that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So is that stated on the front end? That's like kind of what it looks like for graduation and what it could look like after graduation? Because what my response to that is, how is your program designed? And if somebody knows, hey man, like on the front end, I can stay here long term, that there is a system that is in place that check marks boxes that says, hey, after a certain period of time, I can still be here, but these are the rules and the way that it looks like because I am going to be a more long-term resident. If that's what your program is designed to do and you have that set up, absolutely. However, if not, then we're running back into some of that favoritism, right? Because there may be one guy that you're like, man, it's a 6-month program. He's got to go at 6 months. He's got to go. But Johnny, you can absolutely say because, well, man, you're not causing any trouble. So, but again, it's all about what's stated on the front end.
Yeah, I think
you know?
transparent about the criteria.
Yeah. Then if that's the case, 100% no.
So this is the NAR Code of Ethics. Hopefully you guys all have this. If you don't, you can find it on the website. And if you have a problem finding on the website, just email me. But the number one, I think, is in line with what you asked. Number one, assess each potential resident's needs and determine whether the level of support available within the residence is appropriate. Provide assistance to the resident for referral in or outside of the residence. So at some point, you can start having a conversation with the guy like, hey, you've been here you're doing well. Like, for you to like go to the next phase in your life, like we need to put a plan together about your exit strategy. That's you being responsible in your program for your residents. Cool. So I want to end with this, just FYI, the process, and I know you guys pretty much probably all got here through the process. The process being that you RSVP'd somehow, some way, most of you did. And in the RSVP, I always ask a question that's pertinent to the training that we're going to have. Those are vital to helping us provide the training and answer the questions for you. And so as you saw, like a lot of the questions and things that we pulled out of this today were from people that had expressed a question in that process. And I know some people get to the point where like, hey, I just don't really have a question. But man, I'm telling you, if you do, like that's your opportunity to put it in there, and we will do the best in the trainings to answer those questions. So you don't leave with just stuff that we've regurgitated in the middle of this and you're like, hey, they didn't really answer my question, right? Because I know that most of you are shy and we have to force you to talk to each other. So the chance that you're going to raise your hand and ask that question in a group of 30, 40 people, like slim to none. So there's the opportunity to just type it in and be like almost anonymous, right? But it helps us. Great.
And also with that as well, and I say it every single time as the member meeting chair and person who puts on a lot of our education stuff, if there's something that is important to you, please come talk to me specifically so that we can start looking at creating a training or an education session around what's important to you. Because we're covering stuff that we think is important, but the reality is we don't work for y'all. Or actually, that's not true. We do work for you guys, but we don't work at your facilities, so we don't know the specific problems that your facility may be experiencing. So we can absolutely start to cater some of these trainings more specific towards what y'all want. Again, we are here to serve you. Yes, sir.
Can we have a meeting on me coming out my shell?
Yeah. Just go ahead and share.
I'm the shy type.
Okay. I know. You need to sit closer. Well, no, actually, good. Everybody's included in your question. Yeah. So how was the training? Good. Good. I hope so. I think we turned ethics training, which is one of the most boring topics, into a rather exciting one today. So thanks for all participating. Okay, and thank you for being here. Yes, sir.
Cody was talking a while ago about there's no way you can know everything, and not knowing sometimes you just don't have the answer. I heard something one time, and I try to adapt it in my everyday working. Is the older I get, and the longer I work in this field, the more I realize of how much I do not know. Yeah. You made me think of that when you were talking about that, because there's so much stuff, and we depend on each other.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
One question. Is PowerPoint available online?
Yes, it will be. If you wanted to, I can pop it up there for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We can do that.
Phenomenal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because we only touched the surface. There's a 4-hour presentation that we try to whittle down to one. Cody's great. I end up being mega freaked out the night before and throw a whole bunch of stuff on there. So, but yeah, I'll put it up on the website. Thank you. All right, guys.
Thank you all for your participation. Woo!
Safety Summit is June 6th. Safety Summit is June 6th. It's a big attended meeting. Please be there.